G'day, I've been home brewing for nearly 35 years, but I've never tried to make wine. Let's give it a go. Just before we start, I want to give a shout out to Kegland for supplying all the gear. This is not a sponsored video in any way. I haven't been paid to do this video. These are all my words, 100% independent as always. Let's open some boxes. Okay, I think that's everything. Now, I've got a couple of flat-bottomed Firmzillas, non-pressurised, because you don't need pressure for wine at all. Also, some of this, of course, can take time. Wine can take longer than beer to make, certain beers. So you don't want to be tying up your normal fermenters with your wine, unless you do, of course. So these are a great, cheap alternative way to have a few extra fermenters on hand. These flat bottom Firmzillas hold 30 litres. You wouldn't ferment 30 litres into them, of course. They also come with an airlock and a tap, spigot, faucet, whatever you want to call it, that just screws into a pre-drilled hole. The hole's already there, goes into there. They also come with your litre markings and your stick-on thermometers. And they've been nice enough to send me 4 kits. This is a Pinot Grigio. Here we go with my pronunciations. From Italy, and a Cab Sav from Australia. I love a Cab Sav, I might throw that in first. This one's called a Niagara Mist, fresh and fruity. It says strawberry flavoured phrase, if that's how you pronounce it. And this one here is a Shiraz California. And there's many, many more varieties if you want to go and have a look on the website. I'll leave a link below. There's all sorts. You'll find what you like. I also got a heap of bottles. This is just one box, of course. There's 12 bottles in a box. They come with the corks, the shrink caps, and labels. And to go with that, I needed a corker. I didn't have a corker. This is a hand corker. Goes like that, pushes the cork in. They also sent a couple of other things which a beginner might need. That's some Stella Clean, some silicone tubing for transferring, a bottling wand, a test tube, and the hydrometer to go in the test tube. So I've got the complete kit here to make some wine. So without further ado, let's get into our first kit. As I said earlier, I'm going for a Cab Sav first. Let's have a look in the kit. Might need me glasses for this. First we have some granular oak and some oak chips. That's to mimic aging in a barrel, of course. We have some chitosan, bentonite, Kieselsohl, and some yeast. This is Lavin EC 1118. And some sulfite sorbate. And of course an instruction sheet. The rest of the kit is in a big bag. Let's make it. The first thing I'm going to do is rehydrate my yeast. It had been sitting in my hot garage for a while and I was a little bit worried about it. Only a 5 gram pack and it's got a lot of fermenting to do. The yeast packet suggests I use 50 ml of water and it needs to be around 35 to 37 degrees. So I pour some into a glass and I cover it with foil just to keep any nasties out. I sanitize all my utensils and I check the temperature. This water's still a little hot. It was nearly 40 degrees. So I cover it up again. I poke the thermometer in so I don't have to keep opening it up and I come back when it's about the right temperature. The yeast is Lavin EC 1118 and it's a wine yeast. You can see the instructions for rehydration are there on the back. Check the water temperature again and we're close enough. So I'll simply just pour the yeast in, cover it up again, and we'll come back when it's time to use it. I'm treating my water for chlorine and chloramines. You can use a Camden tablet, but I use sodium metabisulfite. You don't have to do this, tap water will be fine. I just like to do it with everything I brew. I take 2 litres of that water and I'm going to heat that up just to help to dissolve the bentonite. I'm only going to heat this to about 50 degrees because I'm using one of the plastic fermenters. If you have something more sturdy, you can use hotter water. Before I'd started, I already washed my fermenter and put some sanitizer in it, let it sit for a little while, splashed it round, and I use one of the cheap stainless steel vessels from Big W, and it fits the fermenter in nicely. I can tip it upside down, let it sit and drain. I cover that with foil too, and I put the lid on top, and that comes handy later. If I want to take that lid off and put it down somewhere, I don't have to worry about what's on the ground or anywhere, because the aluminium foil's there protecting the lid. I put my 2 litres of hot water in, and it's time to put in the bentonite. Let's have a talk about that. Bentonite is a clay, and it's used to help clear the wine. It's nothing at all to worry about. It's been used in face masks, toothpastes. People even take it internally to help with gas. And it's said to be antioxidant and antibacterial and anti-inflammatory. And you simply sprinkle it in and mix it in the best you can. As I said, it is clay, so it can clump up a bit. Just try your best. It doesn't need to be fully mixed in, but there's still plenty of mixing to do. The next thing we do is empty the bladder in. These can be tricky to hold if you've never done it before. The lid just pops off, pour it in, and I find once you get most of it in, then you need to readjust. Put the rest in. You can also use a little bit of water just to rinse it out. Give it a good stir. Look at that lovely colour. Then we just top it up with cold water to about 23 litres. Give it a stir, and then next is the oak chips. There's 2 sorts of oak chips in this kit. There's a medium blend of oak chips. They look slightly toasted. And then there's some granular oak. Looks nice, light colour. Just to mimic being in a barrel. And before I add my yeast, I'll take a sample for a reading. As soon as I've taken a reading, I spray inside the nozzle of the tap with some sanitizer just to clear it out. Make sure it's nice and clean. And it's time to put the yeast in. So I'll give it a stir. The yeast, although rehydrated, didn't seem to be foaming or bubbly or anything. Again, I was a little worried at this stage. And it all goes in. So I put the lid on, put in the airlock, put some sanitizer in the airlock. Then it goes into my fermenter fridge, or my wrapped fridge, and I'm going to ferment it at about 22 degrees. They say it'll take about 2 weeks. So I go back to my sample, I put the hydrometer in, and it's reading what looks like about 1.100. This is 2 days later, and you can see it's fermenting away. I couldn't see any bubbles through the airlock at this stage, so I knew that I probably hadn't put the lid on properly or pushed the airlock in far enough just to create a good seal. So I had a little bit of a play, and the next minute there was bubbles coming out. I'm really enjoying this wrapped fridge. It's great not to have to worry about heat belts and ink birds and things like that. The fridge takes care of all of it. I'll leave a link in the description if you haven't seen the wrapped fridges.
And this is the next day again, so this is 3 days in. Looking nice and foamy. But I came out again 2 days after that, so about 5 days in, and it looked like it had finished fermenting because there was no foam on top. But there was still airlock activity, and when I look closely at the wort, you can see all the bubbles coming out. All that CO2. So it was still fermenting, so I'm just going to put this away, leave it for at least another week, and we'll be back with another video as we shift it into the second fermenter. Cheers! Get on the goon!